it's Nina. Thanks for joining me today for a new video. Today we're going to be creating a card with products from La La Land Crafts. This Marci in Wonderland stamp set is so cute. I thought it would be so much fun to pair it with the Wonderland Stencils, which is a two-part stencil set. We're going to be using both of them today. Now, these stamps do come fully connected. This is a cling mount stamp that you're going to have to cut apart. I recommend using our Simon Says Stamp Everyday Scissors for this. You can just quickly chop out the pieces. You've got 2 sentiments and then of course you have Marci. And I always like to trim off any of the extra pieces that are hanging off the sides because those are kind of places where you might find you get ink to pool. So it's just best to just kind of roughly cut those out. These do have a protective covering on the back side of them. This keeps the cling nice and clean. You can save that for when you're not using the stamps. I'm going to remove that though so we can put it inside of our Misty tool, and we're going to start by stamping Marci onto some hammer mill cardstock. This is great for Copic coloring, which is what I'm going to do to color her in, and I'm using Simon Says Stamp Intense Black ink to stamp this down. Simon's Intense Black ink is perfect for Copic coloring along with all sorts of other mediums, but because I'm Copic coloring, I definitely wanted to reach for that ink. I'm really inspired by the packaging of this stamp set and also just the theme of Alice in Wonderland, which is what this stamp set evokes. So I'm going to use a lot of that as inspiration for the colors I chose. And if you are interested in which colors I did pick out, you can find them linked below in the video description or over on the Simon blog. So be sure to check all that out. So as you can see, I colored her dress blue and I used light blue colors to add some shading to her apron. I used some gray markers to color in her shoes. I picked out some light E markers to add some shading to her skin. And when I colored her face, I really tried to give a really nice deep amount of shading around the edges and then really lighten it up as it goes towards the center. It just gives a lot of definition to her face. Finally, for her hair, I chose some lighter E markers to create almost a blonde effect. Now you could color this image however you want. This is just how I chose to do it. But feel free to pick out different colors if you want to color her a little differently. So there are no coordinating dies for this image. I'm going to use my Simon Says Stamp Fine Detail scissors to cut this out. She is a large image, so it actually is super easy to cut her out. There's not really too many fussy areas that you have to work with. It's a pretty simple cut. I did add some embellishment to her dress and some highlights to her shoes and cup with a white gel pen. Now let's work on creating the background that she's going to sit on. So I picked out this wreath stencil first, and I've got 2 inks from Simon Says Stamp, PEONY and Fairway, and I have some detail blending brushes. My plan is that I want to create an arc of roses along the bottom portion of the card. So we're only going to use half of this stencil. And I'm focusing a lot of the blending for the roses in the interior part and then trying to fade that out as it goes to the edges. It gives them a little bit of definition, even though they're pretty small. It just adds a little something. Now for the leaves, I wanted them to have a little bit of variation too, but they're very small and not easy to shade. So what I did was I actually just put some areas of the leaves lighter and then other areas I added a little bit more heavier ink. So there's some variation there too. So this is how Marci's going to sit. You can see how we're starting to build our scene here, but now I want to add something above. It's going to be a blue sky, but I wanted some texture there. So I'm using this club image out of all these different playing card symbols that are on the stencil, and I'm using some marine ink to add a little bit of shading onto them. Now because this is just one little image, I'm repositioning my stencil and adding these in different sections of my background. I'm trying to keep it random so that it has a very organic look, and you can see how this is going to come together. Now they're a little harsh right now and I really want this to feel like a blue sky. So I'm going to bring in some more of that ink and I'm going to go ink blending right over top of those clubs. This is going to soften them quite a bit and it's going to fill in that sky. So we're going to have just basically the texture of those clubs adding some interest to our background. Okay, so we're going to cut this down. I'm using A2 marquee dies from Simon Says Stamp. This is the largest one. I've cut it down and now we're ready to just add a little bit more touch of color. I picked out that same Fairway ink and I'm just very carefully applying a small amount of it towards the bottom to feather in a tad more color. I'm attaching Marci with foam tape right into the center of my card. And for my card base, I'm going to use a top folding A2 card from Simon Says Stamp, and some PEONY ink is what I used along the bottom portion to fade up to white and create just a little bit of soft color there. This adds just a nice pop that ties in with the roses and the teacup, and I think it looks really pretty. So our card is pretty much done. I just added a greeting. Now this isn't part of the Marci in Wonderland stamp set. This is actually from another Simon Says stamp set called You Shine, which I have linked below in the video description along with all the other supplies that I used today. I hope you were inspired by this card project. I love being able to mix and match my stamps and stencils to create a custom scene like this here. Thanks so much for watching this video. I can't wait to come back and share more with you all. But until then, I hope you have a wonderful day, and thanks for watching.
Hi there, I'm Heidi, Simon's mama and founder at simonsaysstamp.com. Thank you so much for watching our video. If you like what you just saw, be sure to press the thumbs up and subscribe to see more great content.